You can view the video of this podcast on Jazz Cabbage's YouTube or Facebook pages. I'd like to introduce Patrick to our gathered audience here for Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Excuse me. Patrick is one of the principals at Rair Cannabis Company, RAIR, which has a retail location in Bay City and is opening a new one in Muskegon in 2 days. And they have several other openings planned this year. But it's important to note, Patrick is a caregiver, that one of those people that actually was able to leap from caregiving into the retail cannabis world and do it successfully. He's a guy who suffered some consequences from the legal system in his youth for cannabis, and he knows exactly where we're coming from. And not only does he know all that, and he has a successful business, he's growing cannabis in a pretty damn cool way. So I'd like to introduce Patrick Frakes from Rair Cannabis to our audience at Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Welcome.
Thank you guys so much, everybody. Really appreciate all of you guys. And before I say anything about me or Rair, I just want to say nothing is more important than the work that you guys have all done for the legalization efforts, for the Last Prisoner Project, Michael Thompson's case. Those kind of things are what really matters. And certainly major kudos to all of you guys. I've been huge fans and really proud of the efforts that you guys have all put forward, and it's the most important part of this industry. So thank you very much for your cause and your efforts. But yeah, so I was the little brother of Danny Frakes and had my first bong hit at 13 years old. My father and brother were both pretty legendary drinkers as well, and so my teenage years were spent experimenting with drugs, going to a lot of live music, and really being very fortunate. I found my happy family with my friends, and a lot of it involved going around to Grateful Dead shows. I did 15 Dead shows from 82 to 85. And then in Richmond, Virginia on November 1st, 1985, I was sitting tailgating with a group of about 10 friends. I was 18 years old in 2 months. And an undercover cop came up and had a script that he had read from. He had a Steal Your Face t-shirt on, and he had talked about the shows he had seen going through the South, and really roped me in. Very naive kid, and was asking, he said, "I'm sober, I don't have any drugs, I don't have anything. Anybody got anything they can help me out with?" And before I even got the 20 bucks in my hand, I had handcuffs on me, and found out I was one of 225 kids arrested over 2 days. For the Richmond Police Department, felt their war on drugs would go to round up as many kids as they can at a concert, and really entrapped me. And, I didn't realize at that point that it was entrapment, because I was just intending to go to a show, not intending to sell drugs. I actually never was an active drug dealer. I was the kind of guy who would get a quarter pound, sell 3 ounces and keep one for myself, and be able to save a little money, but never really did any active drug dealing until a cop made me a drug dealer at a Grateful Dead show. And then, as I was telling Rick, the bigger crime that was committed against me, scam, was the prosecuting attorney sitting there and treating me like a privileged white kid and saying, "Hey, don't throw your life away. We'll give you a 1-year probation if you plead guilty to a felony." And my dad was adamant, saying, "You're going to plead guilty to that felony. We're not going to court and risking you going to jail over this." And, as I look back on it, the felony conviction has been a huge hindrance in my life. And I've been very lucky, to have successful business ventures. And, one of my most frustrating stories was I've always done a lot of coaching with youth sports and high school sports. And while I was a volunteer coach at the high school, I was also a youth coach for rec sports. And I think it was, about 2007, maybe, that the rec league started doing background checks on the volunteer coaches. And they found my felony conviction, and they told me I couldn't coach youth sports anymore. So I'd been like a very successful youth coach. All the parents, all the kids really fond of me. And I was like, "You guys understand I'm coaching at the high school as well?" And they're like, "Yeah, I know, this is stupid rules we got, but there's nothing we can do." So, that stupid thing stuck with me my whole life. And, when cannabis legalization started happening out in Colorado and California, I mean, I was so envious, and because I had done some good entrepreneurial things, I knew that I could make this work. And I was waiting for it to really see about it turning the corner and making sure that federally it was going to be, the cat's out of the bag, the train is.
Patrick, I don't think we can hear your audio.
You went on mute.
I did?
No, you're
There
fine
you go.
now.
Okay, sorry about that. It's probably the Wi-Fi. But
Go
anyway.
back to the part where Jamie and I are heroes and start from there.
No, but when I found out Michigan was doing this, it was something that became very important to me, and I came to Michigan to be a part of the industry. And I'm very thankful that I was able to go through the commercial process and get licensing in place. But as I was telling Rick, we're not funded by any venture capital group. We're not funded. We're not tied to a real estate investment trust. We're homegrown cannabis commercial operators, and before the MRA changed the laws, it was my intention to be a vertical, but with also having caregiver spotlight in every store. So every community we'd have a store, we would have a caregiver wall and basically promoting the caregiver brands in those communities, which is the only thing we should be doing. And if I ever had any say in the regulatory model, I would immediately let caregivers back into the commercial system. I don't know why a hairdresser can work out of her house, or you can have a giant hair salon. Nobody cares about those businesses, but in cannabis, too many lobbyists, too many lawyers, too many money grabbers that want to try and limit exposure to this industry, which is a mistake. And I fully support the social equity aspect, the gender equity aspect. I'm very proud. We have 3 women running all of our divisions. Our director of cultivation, Ashley Hubbard, has her master's in plant population genetics. And all 3 of the women, when we got them to sign their contracts, we gave them ownership in the company. So we're trying to do it the right way. When we were exploring the best way to do commercial growing, one of my buddies was growing aeroponically out in Washington State. And I didn't even really understand what aeroponics was. I knew about hydroponics and deep water culture, and I was really into that. But, the next level of aeroponics, and truly what we're doing is we are keeping the plants suspended in a collar on a table that has a tub underneath, where we have 271 misters that are misting the nutrients and water onto the plant, onto the roots. Every 15 seconds, it's on for 15 seconds on, 45 seconds off. So constantly spraying the root system there. And, when I first learned about it, I was fascinated by this, how much it speeds up the growth process, how that can be beneficial, obviously production wise. But then what was really cool was growers really were geeking out on it, and the growers, because you take away the dirt management aspect of growing, you allow growers to focus on the TLC of the plant. And so they're really, the interaction between the growers and the plant is what I've probably gotten the most, pleasure out of, and really seeing the way that they can work on terpene profiles. They can work on, individual nutrient programs for each individual strain. Because we're automated and we have these, it's called a matriarch, a mother table, where we put the nutrient mix together. We can change, fully automated rooms, individually controlled rooms. So one room can be a sativa room, temperature's higher, the plants, are going to be growing at a different structure than what we've got with some of those indica strains. So it's been really fascinating to be a part of. Aeroponics is much more a benefit for the user than it is for the grower or for the company, because one of the best things about the plant and the product is flushing. When you can flush at the end of your flowering cycle without having soil in those pots, it really allows an unbelievably pure flush of that plant, and you're getting all those nutrients completely draining out of that plant. No heavy metals issues, because again, we have no soil. And then, when you don't have soil, you also reduce a lot of your potential contaminants. So we're a pesticide-free grow. And so, what we get our COAs back, it's nice to see heavy metals, ND, pesticides, ND every single time. And really that has been the best part about it for us. We always wanted to have, quote unquote, the best weed in Michigan, which everybody says. And I would never claim that. But what I will claim is that we have quality product. And, as a lifelong smoker, I hate a harsh hit. And, when you feel that harshness on the intake and that cough is coming because that weed was not dried and cured properly, and it might have had too many things left over in it, that is something that you really feel as a consumer or a patient. And
Hey,
so
Patrick,
that's the best part about it.
let me come in a little bit right now because we have Bob Miller with us from ACT Labs, a testing laboratory out of Lansing and in several states. And he's got kind of some limited time, but I wanted to get a little bit of information into the testing changes that are taking place. And I'm wondering, as a segue into this, and of course we want to resume this conversation, is there any issue with aeroponics as far as testing goes? Is anything that's happening now or has happened prevented an issue for you for the kind of restrictive, high standard testing that is required?
No, actually, from our standpoint, we think aeroponics actually makes the testing process easier. There's nothing on a consumer basis or anything that's doing with the growth cycle of aeroponics that is somehow taboo or outside of the norm. It's more of just sort of simplifying the process of growing. But the reason why more people don't do aeroponics is it costs a lot more money up front. And with private funding of all these cannabis projects, because there's no lending, a lot of people aren't willing to make that commitment that's necessary. But I would think the testing labs, the ones we've worked with, have been very receptive and really actually impressed with our COAs and how consistent they are. So every time you go through a harvest of the same strain, it's going to have really similar results every time because of our automation.
Patrick's interview was interrupted briefly by a breaking story. We resume. So Patrick, let's return back to I'm going to set the stage for our listeners again. So we have these plants suspended in midair over this gigantic tub of bubbling liquid spraying up on them in a torturous manner. And the plants are just loving that shit, right? That's aeroponics, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what's really cool. We've had our building operational for about 16 months now. And every time I go in there, everything's green. That's what's great about it. I don't ever see yellow leaves. I don't see curled up leaves. I don't see, the plants looking willowing like they're droopy. It's fascinating.
It sounds like this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it sounds like the same concept of the big cloner I use. And I have left plants in there after I've transplanted, and they've gotten huge in that cloner. And you pull them out, and there's like this huge. Yeah. So is that similar?
Held in that little foam hockey puck, right? Yes.
Yeah. Very much so. It's just basically continuing the process. Yeah. So when you lift up the tabletop, it's like a spider web under there.
Right.
The one of the most important things is we have to put a screen over the drain, or else the roots would just fill up the drain and clog up right away.
Right.
Because they grow so dramatically fast. And that's biggest problem we've had, or not problem, but just dialing it in, is with our Fluence LED lights. We've had to scale down that intensity because these plants will grow way too fast. And you don't want them getting up above the canopy before you're getting into the flowering cycle. You want to create, those flowering points to increase and slow down the process a little bit. But the veg time, from the time we take it out of the cloner until the time we turn off the lights for the 12-12 cycle, is only about 11 days. So it's incredible.
That's a fast turnaround for the industry, yes.
Right, and that's what, obviously there's financial benefits and you're getting more harvests, and, if you can flip the room, you can try and get 6 a year. We're never going to get to 6 harvests a year per room, but we're well over 5, which is really incredible in itself. And again, what's been so much fun as a stoner is that, I'm really getting into, the commercial scale of growing and watching it with 1,500 plants in a room, and seeing that consistency on each row with the canopy it's been a lot of fun, and it's fascinating, and it's really great for the industry. All these things we're talking about with the yeast and mold and the aspergillus and things like that. There was a ton of great product in the caregiver system in Michigan over the last 10 years. Unbelievable quality growers in this state. But it doesn't change the fact that there were some guys out there that were flipping a bag of harvest 4 or 5 days after they pulled it, and they were trying to get it into store because they needed money. And the moisture content was through the roof, and you've got powdery mildew issues, and so those things we do want to know about it. Obviously, it's good to know about it, and it's really important, and again, for those caregivers that were doing it right and becoming those incredible quality growers, they were getting, they didn't want to be compared with the guys that were doing that kind of stuff and had the trash bag full of weed that had mold all over it. They were trying to slide through the system. So it is important that we all know that we've got quality product for sure. And it's great to know that Aeroponics really helps us as a grower and helps us as a consumer to have confidence in it.
It's an interesting growing cycle. I remember when hydroponics was first introduced in Michigan, it started to become popular right along the 2008 when the medical law was approved and people were given the opportunity to grow in their own home legally. And that was revolutionary at that time because you're growing in tiny little clay pellets, brand name Hydraton at that time.
Right.
And that was revolutionary. Now growing with no soil whatsoever. This has intriguing issues here. You say that each one of the plants is suspended in a yoke or in a little disc.
Yeah.
Is that expandable as the stalk grows? Because clearly you get a lot of explosive growth out of the plants.
Yeah, it does. So it's like it has the ability to it expands up. The plastic will expand up as the stalk grows. But yeah, the stalk
It stretches, right?
Yeah,
It stretches like a cervix, Rick.
exactly.
Oh.
So yeah, that is
Yeah,
necessary.
'cause that
Also-
happens
Sphincter.
on
He
my
relates to the
cloner, too,
sphincter
with-
more than that.
Yeah, but with the collars on the cloner, if the stalk gets big, it'll leave it stretches.
Yeah. Well, that spongy material, sure, but I'm thinking about the entire weight of an entire plant. I know how heavy those things can be, at
Well,
maturity.
I think it's what the structure is that's it's supporting it.
Well, and aeroponics, really comes from actually NASA and SpaceX now with
cool.
trying to grow vegetables in a limited resource environment. And if there's ever one reason why you guys should support my company, one of our long-term ventures, and this is something that I've been geeking out about.
Weed in space?
And no, it's
Weed in
actually
space, yeah.
it's actually providing containers for third world countries and climates that can't grow vegetables. Because this thing, you can have a water reclamation system where you're not even using more than 50 to 100 gallons a day, and you can grow all kinds of lettuce and tomatoes and great fresh vegetables in a really limited environment. And because the aeroponics expedites the growth process, you also can turn more harvest with vegetables as well. And that is something that's a long-term goal of mine. It's something I've always seen as a big win for our company, is to be able to give back. And any type of desert climate, you can use solar power with water reclamation and an automated system inside to control the environment, and you could grow all the vegetables you need.
Well, we've been talking about space here a little bit because it is applicable to that venue. Elon Musk has talked about creating grow chambers, dropping them on the surface of Mars, and then activating them remotely so that by the time humans arrive, there's a crop already in existence. When they walk right in and they have food ready for them. That's possible with an aeroponic system. Water's heavy, but if you're only carrying 100 gallons of water, that's
Right.
not so bad.
And that's the thing, we go through about 20,000 gallons a day in our facility, but we have a $320,000 water reclamation system. So we're only off-putting about 150 gallons of water a day.
Oh, no way. For a 1,500 plant grow?
No. Well, that's one room. We have about 10,000 plants.
Okay.
So no, this is an amazing, we're reclaiming 95% of our water usage. We have 3 RO units. We have a arc skid filter. We worked with a company called Urban Grow and Cerna out of Colorado to design the system for us. Hydrologic actually is the vendor that did some of these units, but it's really badass. And it's again, what we're trying to do, LED and the water reclamation system, the aeroponics. We don't have to do all of this dirt management. We're just trying to reduce our footprint while creating a really great product.
What a great thing to say. We're trying to reduce our footprint while creating a really great product. And the concept of having one of these self-contained units in an arid location, Namibia, the Sahara, Asia, a lot of even places, mountainous places where it's difficult because there's no soil. You could actually utilize that. Um,
California, where
Amazing.
there's water shortages.
Right. And it really should be happening more now. That's why we need more advocates and people that have got this figured out to be committed to making it happen, because we should stop waiting.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. What a world-changing potential that you have there. And again, so many good things emerge from the cannabis industry. Clearly, aeroponics is something that has been useful in other places, but there's no growth industry like the cannabis industry. And if this is something that takes off and becomes the national standard for how people cultivate on a larger scale, that really will make a difference internationally.
Is there a book or a video or something, Patrick, that is a really good resource if you've never really heard of aeroponics that you would recommend?
Well, that's a great question. I have just done a lot of Google research, but I don't know of one particular book that has been, I knew two aeroponic growers was how I first got started in this. One of my buddies was working in an aeroponic grow in Washington State. But I can certainly, we do have information on our website at rairco.com, RAIRCO.
Okay.
We talk about the aeroponic process, and we want to educate everybody about it so they don't think it's something, again, weird or somehow, not safe, because it's actually the most safe way to grow because it's reducing, a lot of potential problems. So
Anybody else in Michigan doing this, Patrick, or is Rare the only one that we know of?
we're the only one.
That's
And
fantastic.
again, it's not really, everybody would love to do it, but it is a significant, we spent, about $12 million on the facility for 20,000 square feet of canopy. So, but we have a processing lab in there as well. So it's not just all for the aeroponics, but it is very much, you get your ROI if you're willing to put that capital expense in there. But, if you do a hybrid greenhouse or something like that, you're probably under or right around $100 a square foot, where we're about $250. So it's a gigantic expense. But, we have grown. Right now we're harvesting about 700 to 800 pounds a month, and we don't have 30 employees in the building. We're at 29 growers. So
Wow.
The labor rate is greatly reduced because you're not moving dirt. So your harvest, your destem, all these processes are more efficient, quicker to get through. The cleaning of the room and scrubbing the room and getting it ready for the next plants to come in is a lot simpler as well. So again, we love that we allow our growers to be growers and not to be doing a bunch of crap work that they don't want to do anyway.
Well, let's talk about Muskegon. That's opening on Thursday. This is just one of several openings that you have planned for 2021, but it's an exciting second retail location for you.
Well, we really, one of the areas that it feels good is to give back, in Muskegon, especially where the green zone is in Muskegon, is a lot of dilapidated buildings. And our building was really run down itself, and it was not falling apart, but it was about ready to start falling apart. And we had to put a new roof on, new HVAC system, and put a lot of money into rehabbing that facility, and, hired 12 great people from Muskegon, a few that are social equity, applicants, obviously not as owners, but as employees. They were arrested. They did have drug charges against them. One of them is an active participant in the Minorities for Medical Marijuana. She's an amazing young woman that's a part of our team. And, just feels good to be involved in a community like that and knowing that there's a lifeblood being brought back into that community. Obviously, there's a lot of smokers there, which is obviously good for our business. And we want to be part of that rebirth. That's what makes you feel great about your business as well. And if we're growing a great product, doing the right thing by the community, giving back to the community, which we're committed to, we know that they'll be there to support us. And I love the west side of the state. I'm a big fan of Western Michigan. And so Kalamazoo, Lowell, and Big Rapids and Reed City are all coming up this year on the west side. So we do want to be a well-known brand on the west side, but not just so much about The aeroponics, while that is in our name, it's a big part of who we are and what we do, but it's more about the community knowing that we're part of this industry, that we're users, that we've been there through the illegal times. And unfortunately, I was victimized by the old war on drugs, and Ashley, our director of cultivation, she's born and bred in Colorado, and now she's become a Michigander, and she found her boyfriend and has fallen in love out here and fallen in love with the state of Michigan. So it's nice to see all these positive things happening from an idea that popped in my head about trying to make this real. And I'm very proud of that.
Early on, you'd attended some of the Michigan Cannabis Business Development Group conferences that I've hosted. Of course, I had to suspend all that because of the COVID-19 situation. But networking and seeking information like that, how important was that to you in business development?
It was everything. It was literally everything. I was smart enough, I didn't want to outsource, to a consulting firm, and pay Canna Advisors or Medicine Man Technologies. I didn't want to do that. So what I did was I just put out my credit card and I just started going to events. I went out to Seattle, went to Colorado. I did the national events, the NCIA in Vegas. But then I was always attending the Michigan events, every single Michigan event I could, whether it was a CannaCon or a Benzinga or your events. I always felt more at home with the Michiganders, and quickly, I met Craig Aronoff and he became our lawyer, and I met Jamie Cooper, and I met Ryan Basor about 2 years ago at this point. He was at our site in our construction trailer before our building was even up, and so being part of that part of the community was always vital to me. And, again, not trying to speak bad about other vertical operators out there, but we didn't want to be thought of as a corporate fat cat. We're not in this to sell our company in a couple of years and make a quick money grab. For us, this is about helping patients, helping veterans, and more importantly, helping people who don't use cannabis realize that you should put cannabis in your life. It's going to make you a more well-balanced and happier person. And to Shelly's point, we need less battles and we need more everybody uniting and getting along. Nothing can do that better than cannabis.
I agree. Well, we look at polling on a national basis. 68% of Americans believe cannabis legalization is the right thing. Medical cannabis use, over 90%. Clearly, Idaho not supporting those type of things. But the fact is, we've got so much support on both sides of the aisle that as a partisan healer of wounds, or I suppose a healer of partisan wounds is a better way to say it, cannabis can certainly be that balm, can be that salve.
Well, and that's the thing, we want to make sure that the patients and caregivers and real lifelong consumers understand that we're here for them, but we're also here for the soccer moms and the people that are over 60 that are sick and tired of taking Advil. Those are the people we need to communicate to understand, it can get rid of, all kinds of inflammation issues, hypertension issues, fibromyalgia, all of these things. There's so many things. And, even with Alzheimer's, I've been personally connected to someone in the Florida medical program. Dr. Michelle Weiner, I don't know if anybody knows her, but she's actually really, really a huge advocate in the medical community for cannabis. And she has worked with Alzheimer's patients, and really that amyloid plaque buildup issue is something that I think is still being, the stigma of cannabis is prohibiting the medical community from realizing this could be the game changer for Alzheimer's, and people that have a genetic predisposition for Alzheimer's. If they're taking CBD and maybe just a baby amount of THC and keeping those receptors active in their brain, it's going to prevent that amyloid plaque buildup, and that should be broadcast everywhere.
We've been saying for years and years and years that people should pay more attention to cannabis and the healing powers it has, and that, I think we can all agree, has been on the rise. It's been on the increase. We see the number of states that are adopting legalization programs because they know the lies of the drug war were just that, and medical programs, even where legalization exists, are still surviving, even though they may not be thriving. In Michigan's system, you have to be 21 years of age in order to use cannabis on a recreational basis. So if you need it for any purpose, medicinal, you have to have a cannabis card until you are 21 years of age, and that's going to be super important for people. That whole system can never go away. Unlike my body, which seems to be fading as the light comes in. I'm a disembodied head. I'm the former head of Rick Thompson.
Honestly, earlier it kind of looked like you were on the beach. Like sometimes like there's like a bunch of like yellow and it kind of looks like sand.
Like in Baron von Munchausen when Robin Williams' head gets separated from the body.
That is an old school reference. That's a great. But
Too soon, Jamie.
I'm in a studio here where I have 4 skylights and I'm surrounded by glass all around me, so I get a lot of the evening sun during the Jazz Cabbage Cafe. It's kind of fun. Nice. No, Patrick, it's excellent to listen to you. Jamie, go ahead.
Yeah. So, what other lines of product do you have in your store that is featured?
So we do have a processing lab as well, but we are, this is one of the unique things. We will evolve, I think, to have relationships with other growers and processors. But right now we're only carrying our own products. And that was really kind of a goal. One of the things we were developing this business plan for was to apply for a medical license in Florida. The medical program, as it expanded in Florida right about the same time that Michigan's did. I think in 2016, late Amendment 2 passed in Florida. There was a licensing application that was out there and we were gung-ho, which requires a vertical model. And at the same time with my partner, Kevin McFadden, the real estate developer, we wanted to attack Michigan as a vertical as well, not because we wanted to, obviously the profit margin is real and you get to control that price point. You're not subjected to the wholesale fluctuations, but for us, again, it goes back to quality. We make our carts out of cryogenic ethanol because it bypasses winterization and makes a smoother vape cart. Pretty simple stuff. We chose Aeroponics because it helps us have a cleaner quality flower and with less chances of problems. So everything we've done is to try to make sure, hey, there's something that is in our store that people can count on. And so that's why we have started with our own product lines. We hired a chemical engineer that had been working in the nano emulsion space and had been groomed by Pfizer to go into the pharmaceutical industry, and we stole her. I'm very proud of that. And she wanted to get out of it because she felt she was impassionate about being involved in cannabis as opposed to the pharmaceutical side. So those kind of things, we're trying to, again, embrace where cannabis came from, but also take it to where it needs to go and be a beacon for that.
Yeah, excellent message. So when
that
we
was
talk
Dr. Michelle, you said?
Dr. Michelle Weiner.
Yeah.
Dr. Michelle Weiner. Okay, because somebody in the comments, Sophia was saying that she wants to let people know about her to make sure she's got it correctly. It's Dr. Michelle Weiner. Okay.
Yeah, she's down in Florida, but she's a huge advocate. She speaks at a lot of events. Well, again, before they got canceled due to COVID.
I find her online, maybe on one of these platforms, I'm sure.
Yes, and she's legit for sure. She's the truth.
So let me just throw in a pitch there for Redemption Cannabis. And Redemption and Rare seem like a great combination because you both have a similar message.
Well, I've always thought about that too. And again, I think of Ryan as a friend, and we're just getting really going and who Rare is. So I'm excited about the evolution and supporting brands that are doing the right thing as we continue to evolve for sure.
Fantastic.
I'm looking forward to seeing the new store this week.
Me too. Really excited to get you guys out there.
Oh, that's wonderful. And it's in Muskegon, Michigan. You have an address on that for our Muskegon area viewers?
It's 1871 Peck Street, 1871 Peck Street, just down from Bella Soul and around the corner from Park Place and Redbuds. We're in that district, which is the way we like it. We want to be where everybody else is.
He got that from memory. Didn't have to look it up. That's a professional right there, boy. Nice.
I've written it down a lot of times, as you can imagine.
Yeah, well, anytime you have a retail opening, especially with the build out as extensive as you described, I'm sure you spent a lot of time planning and agonizing over it. So that address must have floated in your nightmares at times.
Well, and the coolest thing about my project, just to give props, is has nothing to do with me. It's all about my team. the three women that are running our divisions are a lot younger than me, a lot smarter than me, a lot cooler than me. And they're fascinating, and I couldn't be more proud of them. And, you know, we're up to about 60 people now between our retail spaces, our processing, and our grow. And, you know, it's fascinating. Again, this was an idea in my head at one point. I didn't know if I was going to ever get anybody to fund the project, you know, and believe in this. So it feels really good to be here and be hanging out with you guys.
Well, the fact is, in Michigan, it's dynamic. We have a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of companies that are emerging. It's difficult to know who to get behind, and until you actually get the story about how things developed and who the actual players are, it's just one brand name after another. And I certainly appreciate you sharing the story of Rare Cannabis with us today.
And I think it helps to confirm what we've said quite a bit on the show is that aside from the business acumen and having resources and all those other very necessary elements for participation, to understand the history, the culture, the nature of the plant, to have some experience with it or have people around who have is a important part of the formula in this new world.
Well, if you guys don't mind me just saying one more thing, I think you'll find it valuable. You know, I think I told the story to Rick, you know, as a kid who grew up in the suburbs of DC, you know, and even though I was arrested at that Dead show, you know, I definitely benefited from the white privilege and being allowed to be a stoner without cops driving around my neighborhood all the time. And when coaching high school football and basketball, 99% of my kids were Black. And I watched over 12 years so many stories of these kids doing nothing wrong, but somehow ending up under arrest. The taillight stories, the kid sitting on his front porch, hanging out with his friends and getting arrested for underage drinking, you know, and when 4 of the 5 were overage drinking, I mean, of legal drinking age, you know, and I've had kids lose scholarships to college because of a possession charge, you know, and this is just, it's insane to think about how easy it was to ruin a kid's life because he was Black and he had a joint in his hand. And that kind of thing just had such a huge impact on me, watching it from a firsthand experience. All those kids were like my children, and it was painful to experience, and it really it opened my eyes very clearly.
Are you already a part of like Last Prisoner Project or something like that?
No, but I 100% am going to be. You know, really, the last year has been so much about getting this thing up and running. Now
There's
we're
a couple of
there, and I need to be a part of it. I've told Rick I'm committed to being a
nice.
part of it.
Okay. And I'm sure because of that, right?
Yeah.
And there's like some coalitions that have been formed, and the support is welcome. And some good work has already started, and you know, hopefully just the beginning.
Right, just the beginning. So much more work to be done, and it needs to be done faster.
Right on.
That's true. Well, thanks again for joining us, Patrick.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your show, and I'm going to hang out and keep listening.
Later in the broadcast, Patrick, what's the obviously flower has dominated the market for a long time. I saw recently a report that said that medibles were just a very small fraction of what retail stores actually do, and vape carts were on the decline as well. Would you say that's approximately what you've experienced?
Yes, and I think part of it is to do, again, we're getting into more specialty items, which is good for the industry, specifically live resin vape carts. Live resin carts, I think, will take over, and will, you know, really regular distillate vape carts probably will go away in the future. You know, the more you can get any type of vapable closer to the entourage effect, that obviously is what the consumer is going to look for. You know, now you see some of these THC Delta 8 CBD combo carts, you know, that are producing more of an even body high, you know, just getting a wide range there. But certainly on the edible side, we're seeing a massive increase in edible sales. I think edibles probably due to COVID, you know, and people just looking for more things to do while they're at the house and can't do anything else. But edibles are not going away for sure, you know, and nano gummies, nano edibles will become more prevalent, faster onset, and provide more options for that as well. So I think that will become, the more you have an edible that somebody can start feeling in 15 to 20, 25 minutes, it's going to generate a new audience as well, kind of like me. You know, because I've always wanted the instant high, and edibles has never been a huge thing for me, other than sleeping.
Well, the part of the issue with edibles oftentimes is that people take it, and because their system doesn't register the effect for an hour or so afterwards, or perhaps even longer, sometimes they take a second dose, and then when the effect comes, it's stronger than anticipated. So having a faster onset would probably alleviate a lot of those concerns about utilizing medibles.
Right, and that's one of the wild things. You know, it's an evolutionary process, but you know, for some people that are using edibles to get through the night, the faster onset will actually be a deterrent for them. You know, because they want it to last longer. So it's unique, and I think it will be a matter of time before we actually start creating a combination edible that has some nano particles in it and has larger particles, so you're absorbing a more percentage through your digestive tract, you know, and not getting into your bloodstream so fast. So, but it's a, you know, that's all dialing it in. We're in the infancy. This is like the bag phone stage when it comes to cell phones, when we're talking about the processing and extraction side of cannabis. We're going to be so light years ahead of this 10 years from now.
Nice, nice. Well, again, being an innovator of technology always has an advantage in the marketplace. But some of the things you're talking about advance the knowledge level of all mankind, right? We're talking
Right.
about some revolutionary stuff here.
Yeah. No, and I think, you know, that's where, you know, we're going to see at some point with federal legalization, we're going to see things in our grocery stores, you know, in the beer, near the beer section, like a infused beverages or nano drops, you know, nano THC drops that you can put in any beverage you want. I think that's going to be a very useful item. And again, going back to that onset time, if you've got that nano particle sized oil and a drop that you can put in any beverage. Sometimes if you're doing it really small particle size, I guess they below 20 nanometers, you know, and then it gets into your saliva and you're feeling it almost like you're smoking it 8 to 12 minutes. You're getting a head high from drinking something that feels just like an entourage effect cannabis high. So that's intriguing stuff, but it's again, we're just getting started.
Similar to the method with sublingual tablets, where you just put it under your tongue and it's absorbed through the tissues of the mouth into the saliva.
You get that euphoric hit, but you're not then committed for a while.
Which I gotta say, it sounds like your operation, it just puts so much pride into your grow and everything, and then you take your concentrate that you process, and then you make an edible out of that. One thing that I'd love to see as we grow in this industry is more healthy options for people. Things that don't include so much sugar,
Right.
and because gummies, people get hooked on those, and brownies, and you have to eat a brownie every night to go to bed. I
Right.
remember we had a guy that came in and bought like 5 brownies, and he every day, and he would eat these brownies throughout the day, and it was, I mean, he gained weight, and it wasn't very healthy for him. So,
No, and that's so true. You know, vegan options and sugar-free options have to continue to grow. We certainly want to be a part of that too. But again, it's taking one piece at a time and making sure we go through the R&D and get a product line that works. Flavoring is such a huge issue. The stabilizer package with nanotechnology is a really big issue. Anytime you make nanoparticles, that actually gets more bitter. So you have to do a lot more with the flavoring to mask that. So there's challenges all over it, but it's so important. You know, unfortunately, I fight the battle of the bulge, and COVID has not been good to me. But you know, it's the same thing. If I get a little bit of sugar in my system, it's like heroin. I feel it, especially as I get older. You know, and then you know your body is like run down, but you want it again, and so you really have to force yourself. Don't even have that one cookie, one little bit of sugar, because it really, your body just kicks in and wants it more.
he does.